Hey, how y'all doing today? This is Nate and Chris with the Rule of Thirds.
What's up, guys? What's up?
And today we are reviewing that Black Widow. We both got to see it. Uh, Gonna give our honest reviews on how we feel about the movie. The likes, dislikes, the whole 9 yards there. I'm gonna say, if
I
you
guess
actually
my
want,
first,
yeah.
I guess my first question is, where did you see it?
So I didn't get to watch in the movies, so I
Oh,
watched it at home. I
okay,
paid $30. I shared it with as many people as I could at home.
okay,
My
good,
dad watched
good,
it, my sister watched it, my mom
right,
watched it. So
cool,
I can still watch it.
okay,
So I feel like I at least get I spent thirty
more than
dollars.
$30.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I got my $30 worth out of it. I made sure I would. So it still sucks that I spent $30, but I
Well,
couldn't get to the movie theaters,
well,
which
let me
sucks
let me
because
go
I
ahead.
really wanted to.
Well, let me go ahead and paint this picture for you, right? So I goes the weekend it came out, and I think this was like was it Tuesday or something like that. It was like I never really go when it releases. I don't want to be amongst the masses, so it was probably the first weekday after it came out, and I went to the gym, worked out, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna just go buy my ticket now." It was matinee. It was before 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whatever the matinee is. Get the time, but it was like $7 for the ticket. I was like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is great." And the theater I went to, you can kind of pick your seats and see what seats are have already been taken. So I picked a seat where it wasn't around a whole bunch of people. I'm like $7. This is great. This is exactly what I want to. Hell no, I'm not paying $30. To get this on Disney Plus. I want to go to the theater. I want that experience. I missed that experience. So come back, shower, get ready, go back to the theater, um, and get there. Maybe like 10, 15 minutes before showtime. Place is packed. Place is packed. And I already got my ticket, so now I'm thinking, okay, now all I need to do is get something to drink in a bag of gummy bears, and I'm good. It's like 10 minutes in line, the kids, the whole sort of, well, what do you want? What do you want? I don't know. I don't know. What should I get? And it's just like, I realized why I enjoy being at home for a year and not going to the theater. Fast forward, now it's my turn. I had two vitamin waters because I was working out. I don't want to cramp up in the theater. Two vitamin waters and a bag of fruit snacks.
$154.
It was $18. $18 for two vitamin waters and a bag of fruit snacks.
No 30% discount when you get three items or nothing like that. Like, dang.
No, no, none of that. And it was even like the cashier, like she couldn't even look me in the eye. Like her head was down the whole time. And I'm like looking at her just to even see, like, will you even look me in the eye as you charge me $18 for two vitamin waters and a bag of fruit snacks? No. Going to the theater, and I will say this much, man. There's something I definitely miss. The surround sound, the big screen, just that feeling of being in the theater. It was. I probably would have paid more. We're going to get into talking about the movie itself and whether I thought that was worth $30, but it was nice to be back in the theater. It was nice to the walk up the steps and you look for your seat and all that was nice. That was refreshing. So overdue. I'll say that much. So that experience was definitely a positive. But the movie, and one thing I think we have to keep in mind when we talk about this movie, the movie should have came out a year ago, a year and some change. I think it was May of 2020, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the movie had been done. The movie had been cooking. I knew there were some reshoots and things like that, but essentially the movie, the concept, everything was done. And I think the biggest question I had going in this movie, and maybe you can even, kind of chime in on this, was where does this movie fit in the grand scheme of things? We done had the end game, Thanos has been defeated, that kind of thing. Where does this movie fit in the whole Marvel landscape of things? I was kind of concerned about that. What were your thoughts about that?
So my big thing was, I mean, the chat. And we'll get more into this as we talk about it. They tried to do a little bit of something at the end, but I feel like as the movie as a whole, I felt like that part of the end was kind of tagged on. But I feel like the movie as a whole felt like it should have came out literally maybe between Infinity War and Endgame in actuality, like somewhere, or maybe right after Endgame. Like, it feels like it should have came out a while ago, and because of that, and because we've seen so much more with some of the shows and stuff now, it feels like some of it has lost its impact. Like, we're already, like, so I didn't feel as attached to a lot of these characters as I really would have liked to have gotten, or feel like any of them are gonna really make any more, like, other than I guess her adoptive sister, fake surrogate and family, whatever.
Yelling it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Other than her maybe making another appearance, like it felt like everybody felt like one-off characters and stuff like that, and it took away. It took a lot of, well, maybe these characters will be in something else from it, because it came out so far, and it came out so much later than it should have.
Here's a question. I'll just be blunt with you. Do you feel like this movie was even necessary?
Nope.
Mm.
I feel like it was just to get. Nope. I feel like it was made just to get all the original Avengers a movie. Hawkeye also supposed to get I hope his movie isn't like this too, where it just literally just feels like.
Well, he's serious.
Yeah. So here's the thing. This movie felt like a filler episode.
Mm.
This is a filler. It felt like a filler movie. It was like, and that's not a feels good. Like it.
Okay.
It didn't answer any question. It didn't answer any questions, and nor did it. It didn't really kind of cause any new questions to really be answered. Like, really,
okay.
Like I said, other than like the kind of tag on that they added at the end, like, and they could have did that in literally any of the series that they did.
Sure.
Like, they didn't even have, like, they didn't, like, I guess other than, maybe giving her sister some backstory. But even then, they didn't really. Her training was never really shown or anything like that in the movie. So it's not like she got. Like, they explained the Red Room, but they don't really show like her training. So like that could have the amount of exposition they did in the movie about her training and stuff like that was about 15 minutes, and that's something you could have thrown in the show. You could have literally thrown that into like Falcon and Winter Soldier, or something like or anything.
Okay.
You could have thrown that into Hawkeye show.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I guess I agree with everything you're saying. I think the movie, from its construct, I think the movie was everything it was designed to be. I don't believe it was supposed to be a continuation of anything. I think it was supposed to be a farewell to this character. I think it was supposed to be to tie up a couple really small, minuscule loose ends. It really didn't have anything to do with the grand scheme of the Marvel Cinematic Universe continuity up until this point. But it was another one of those kind of grounded stories that really dealt with some sort of key issues. And if you remember me talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier, I kind of feel the same way about that. Is you have these sort of fantastical, outer worldly, other dimensions, multiverse, all these concepts and all these kind of things, and you wonder what draws us in as fans and viewers. And as much as we love those, you know, fantastical stories, it's really the stories, in my opinion, that hit home to those humanistic characteristics and traits: family, abandonment, trust, and things like that, love, affection, all this kind of stuff. The power and the superpowers, all that stuff will come, but I believe this story, and let me say this before I get too far. I agree with you. It's hard to see where this story fits. It takes place essentially right after the events of Civil War, and it follows, the Black Widow, and essentially she's a fugitive. She goes back home. Or no, sorry, she doesn't go back home. There's some flashbacks of when she was raised by this sort of Russian splinter cell kind of family and all this kind of stuff, and her upbringing. And you're right. I would have loved to have seen something of her when she was younger and kind of developing her. I thought we were going to get more of that, and we didn't. But it's hard to see where this movie fits in the grand scheme of things. And at its core, I literally just think it's like just one of those grounded films to say, hey, we've taken our fan base through the highs and lows and all over the galaxy and all this kind of stuff. Well, here's a real grounded story to essentially kind of bring everything back home, And I think this movie does things where it sets up stories like Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's going to set up stories like Hawkeye, where there aren't really a whole lot of superpowers and things like that. But there's that connection we have with these characters because, we've gone through, or we can relate to some of the things that they've gone through. What is it? Was it a great movie? Was I blown away by it? No, not at all. Do I think there's some value in the movie? Sure, I do. But to your point, there's a lot of filler in it. There is. there's a lot of filler in the movie. Let's kind of start at the beginning. What did you think about this whole sort of her childhood upbringing, where you get and I cannot think of her name, but essentially the Red Guardian at the time, and I can't. Somebody, maybe Google her name. I cannot figure what her name was.
It wasn't Hilda, but
yeah, I can't. The mother. But essentially, you get to see these two young girls, kids, growing up, and their innocence, and they have no idea what's going on, and and then you see this sort of the pace really picks up with them having to flee the country. What were your thoughts about that opening scene?
I like that it started off fast. There were actually a lot of scenes in the movie that I really liked. I thought were kind of dope. There's just a lot of story elements and stuff like that I thought were stupidly placed. But I really liked the opening scene. It kind of set the tone for essentially how Black Widow got to be where she is today. And I like that. And it kind of set up who the big bad of the story of the movie was, kind of immediately. And I actually really liked the opening scene. I thought it was a good action scene. I thought it was actually, Marvel definitely, I think, feel like they nailed it with the choreography and stuff like that with it. For with Alexei hanging off the plane and kind of jumping through, and it was kind of the first time when in the movie where I kind of were like, he has to have some type of super strength or something like that because of the stuff he was kind of doing. I was like, so So he went from kind of like looking like just a normal kind of undercover spy to like, oh, he's serious about this. So yeah, I really like the opening scene.
Red Guardian essentially is Russia's answer to Captain America. And not to get into the whole weapons plus project or whatever, but he's on that list somewhere, and he's probably in the top 5 if I had to guess. But essentially the enhanced strength, speed, all this kind of stuff. You see him even talking to Dreykov in that kind of final scene of the flashback, where he's like, hey, you could have me doing so many other things. Why do you have me doing this stupid mission, pretending to be this father and all those kind of things, and essentially wanting to be that asset, that super soldier for Russia. And really the thing that grabbed me. What's that?
No, keep going. I did my camera up.
Oh, the scene that grabbed me was that sort of when you see him. Come on, what's his name? What's his real name? The Red Guardian. What's his name in this show? His first name? Alexei. You see Alexei like talking to his girls, the sort of father-like figure. And man, when they shove the needles in the girls' necks and like they go out, I was like, oh wow. But I wasn't expecting that. And I'm like, okay, that's that sort of brutality, that sort of complete disregard and ruthlessness that this, Dreykov has, and wanted to, construct this sort of Black Widow, program. Fast forward, we know what Nat's been up to, hanging around with the Avengers. We don't know what her sister's been up to. Her sister essentially is still a, Black Widow. There's not a whole lot to unpack with the story itself.
They don't really actually go in that deep into the Black Widow training like I thought they were going to.
No.
I thought they were going to get a lot deeper into it, and they kind of like.
So do you remember Agent Carter?
Yes.
Do you remember Dottie, who was like one of the OG Black Widows? I thought we were going to get like backstories like that.
Yeah, like.
Do you remember that? I think was it season 1 or season 2, where she was like one of the original Black Widows.
Yeah, and they went into depth about no, they didn't do none of that. They were like, yeah, they're Black Widows, and they do this
right,
and that's about it.
I agree with you. I do. I guess let me say this before we even get too far. I feel like this story was constructed, based on the idea there were just so many unanswered questions about Romanov's past. Everything from the first Avengers to how much red is in her ledger, Dreykov's daughter. Like, we don't know what they're talking about. To the dialogue between her and Hawkeye talking about you and I remember Budapest very differently. And as much as that's like fanfare and wow, what can we do with that? From a movie perspective and a continuity perspective, I feel like the story was just told just to answer those questions. You know what I mean? I feel like there could have been a lot more done with that, but just essentially have a movie in its own right, essentially tie a bow on its own story, and the story really isn't all that pertinent to the continuity of the universe. It's just kind of different.
One-off.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Every other story, every other Marvel story we've essentially had has led into something. And other than the end credit scene or mid credit scene, the story really doesn't lead into anywhere. You know what I mean? Yes, we find out who Dreykov is. We find out about Dreykov's daughter. We find out about we didn't even get that much about Budapest.
We did.
We have the scene of them up in the little scaffolding, and she's talking
like, we were here
yeah.
for a couple of days. That was.
Yeah, it was just I don't know. I thought the action was good. I love Ray Winstone. I love him in anything he does. So to see him as Dreykov was cool. I loved that sort of his little base up in the clouds. I thought that was unique. What do you think about Taskmaster?
I feel like they made an unnecessary change for the sake of change, and I was like, why? I was like, Taskmaster was always just a mercenary dude who he had the ability, like he could copy everybody's thing, and he's like, yeah. Now it's my daughter that you tried to blow up an explosion, and that computer chipped her, and now she can learn all the abilities from like.
Not only that, but she's like 7'4".
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I almost would have been happier with just her dying instead of her being this sort of
7'4" Taskmaster.
Yeah, this sort of like cyborg creature kind of thing, you know.
It was a super unnecessary. You could literally just introduce Taskmaster, and having just Taskmaster would have been cool. You didn't have to try to change the book. You didn't have to try to like, yeah, this is new Taskmaster, and then he's kind of eliminated in the same, or she's eliminated in the same movie that they're introduced in. So it was just like a whole wasted character.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you.
So
what was the point of that?
So here, let me ask this question. What did you like about the movie? What were some of your favorite scenes?
I actually liked I liked Natasha and Yoda's I liked their interactions with each other. I thought those were actually really funny. Especially the part where she said you pose. Where you say
that was hilarious. Yeah, she said yes. You were such a poser. That was hilarious.
She's like, why do you do that? He's like, what? She's like, yeah, why do you do that? Like, like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, you like drop down and like do the pose with everybody, like, and like you like flick your hair back. She's like, what? I don't pose. Like, yeah, you pose. Like, I thought Alexi's character, whenever he interacted with the family about him trying to justify his dad actions, were hilarious the whole time. And then at the one part where he was trying to explain, like, he kept on trying to explain his story, like, I know I messed up, and it was like to the wrong person over and over again. And then when he finally got to, he's like, whatever.
You know what? Yeah, there's some scenes in this movie, and I really think the best scenes in this movie are built around the pseudo family that they had. Yeah. So I honestly believe that because how long were we together? 3 years, two or 3 years. I honestly believe that for those 3 years they genuinely cared about each other, to the point when Alexi even knew what buttons to push with Yelena. You see when she goes into her room, and I love like, I mean, these are all like mercenaries and trained killers, but the fact that they all get around each other and have like these family arguments, and like she goes to house and goes to her room, I thought were great. I thought were phenomenal. When she gets up and goes to her room, it was hilarious. I was like, this is so good.
The best parts of the movie didn't actually pertain to the story of the movie. It was just the interactions with each other, like, which were good.
I think that's why I think the core of this movie, the story, is the family. I really do, and I really think, we'll kind of tread lightly here, but we'll start talking about the end of the movie, the end credits, and obviously the inevitable with Natasha and her essentially dying, but when they really have no one else to turn to, and they go back to the mother, and even her like cold-heartedness like brought them in and fed them, but she was like, yeah, I called the troops, they're coming, but the scene where like Yelena goes to her room and pouts, and she doesn't want to be bothered, and Alexi goes back there and he starts singing like that part of American Pie was amazing. I thought David Harbour, the guy from Stranger Things and so many other movies, thought he did a phenomenal job. This sort of big sister, little sister dynamic between Yelena and Natasha, I thought was great. And I guess that's just the takeaway I have of this whole movie. It was just it's about family. It's about being able to come back home essentially. That last scene after everything was over and Natasha says yelling and she goes, hey, I should have came and looked after you and all this kind of stuff. And she's sorry, she apologized, and the embrace they had was phenomenal. That is the story. That is the story of this movie. I wasn't crazy about Taskmaster. Wasn't crazy about. I thought we were going to get so much more with the Red Room and the whole Black Widow program as a whole. I wasn't even really crazy with like all the Black Widows got that antidote at the end. I would have loved for like some other Black Widows to still be out there.
Dreykov went out like a bitch, and they kind of made him seem like. I'm trying to like say this in like a not so crude way, but they kind of made him seem like a bitch at the end. Like they were like, you literally just depend on pheromones so that none of these women can hit you. Because if any of them can hit you, they whoop you. They like for a fact that they beat you the fuck up. Like, and then when it wasn't working, he got beat down. He just like his whole thing was like so at the end of the day, it just seemed like they made it seem like he was just on a power trip and like he was just a super insecure dude who was on a power trip the whole time. Like when she was talking about you don't have the power, like, I have all of this. All the people come to me for this. I'm like, oh man, like.
I mean, his sort of, covert Splinter Cell, Black Ops teams, I'm sure they did. I'm sure you saw that little montage of him posing with presidents and dictators and all this kind of stuff. I'm sure they did. He even showed, where all the widows are at around the world, so, I think that was a nod to like some of the, Bourne Identity movies with that whole program, you know what I mean? I forget what they call it. All that kind of stuff, but whatever. I mean, if that's, I'm sure every government has cells and assets throughout the country. That's just, that's not anything that I don't think is too far-fetched for somebody, to comprehend that, oh, well, this government has all these covert agents in, all over the world. Well, okay, well, so does every other damn country.
Hell, but they didn't have them at this point in time.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. What else is there really to unpack about this movie? Let's go ahead and dive into that mid-credit scene, man.
So,
we saw... Go ahead. I'll let you take it. Go ahead.
What's her name? Not Liz, but the lady from Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Olivia? I forgot what her name is. It Olivia or Elizabeth or?
What do they call her? I know her as Madam Hydra or whatever.
Yeah. I think she said her friends call her Liz, but told her one dude don't call her Liz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but her essentially and she essentially says like, you want to know who essentially got your brother or your sister killed? And
Val.
Yeah, Val. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, yeah, it was and she points her out to Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, obviously anybody who's seen the movie knows that's actually completely not the case. In fact, they had a race to see who could sacrifice themselves the fastest.
Yeah.
Like, so it definitely wasn't the case at all. But at this point in time, it is super hard to prove that she died off planet.
I guess my question is, like, where's she even getting her resources and her information from?
I would wonder that too. Like,
I mean, they were literally it was her, Hawkeye, and the Red Skull on this planet. So Hawkeye came back, and so like, which one of the Avengers went to Val?
Red Skull got on the phone like, hell, Hydra from there. Like, look, I got this.
I guess my theory about her though is I guess the only person who I think who could have contacted her and said, hey, I need you to put the team together, I can't do it anymore, is Fury. The only person, he's the only person who was like, yeah, Barton came back without Romanoff. So you go figure. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I can think of that like even makes any sort of sense. I don't know if Valentina works for Fury or what her role will be, but that's the only thing that makes sense. Just with that whole sort of Natasha and Barton go to this planet, and one comes back. Like how do you? No one knows what happened except Barton. So
Yeah.
it was a cool scene. I do like to see Yelena and I mean the whistle that they had, that little connection. I thought that was cool. I really thought that was deep. I thought it was just showing that connection that she had with her sister. Um, to have essentially a Black Widow character kind of remain with the Avengers and in the MCU is pretty cool. Um, but I mean, I think we're at that point, and I don't want to go off on a tangent. I know I always say that. Sorry. Um, but with this multiverse, like it's hard to really say if anybody's really gone.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that.
Let's not remember that Loki's in a whole different timeline though.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to really say, okay, well, we'll never see Robert Downey Jr. We'll never see Chris Evans. We'll never see Scarlett Johansson. Man, I don't know. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see going forward. And I think you're going to continue to have those grounded stories. Hawkeye, the Hawkeye story. We're going to get. Yeah, we're going to get. Go ahead.
I'm about to say they need to. They need to continue to have. Now that they've expanded to the multiverse with all this new stuff, they still need to have grounded stories so that because it's hard for people to always understand multiversal stuff.
Absolutely.
Multiversal stuff doesn't affect them. They know that's a super grand fantasy, but sometimes having those grounded stories that are pretty close to home just helps draw you back into the universe. Like,
sure.
To know that even in this universe, all these grandiose things are happening, these little things are still happening on the smaller scale still that are just like, everyday stuff. Like, yeah, and I feel like that's definitely super important. Like,
we're going to get the Hawkeye story. We're going to get Thunderbolts is a real grounded story.
Yeah. I just feel like they're better off as shows and not whole movies.
Yeah. No, I mean, we could do a whole episode just on, the Marvel movies and what we think of the Marvel series. But
I'll say this: if this was a 6-part series, where they could have deep dived into more of the Red Room, more of their family dynamic over the last 3 years, so on and so forth, this could have been really, really, really good. Instead of, it's not
that is a great point.
It's just average. Like that's what I was reading. I just feel like this is a pretty average Marvel movie. Like, it's not gonna be one of those ones you remember for a long time. It just kind of fell into the place.
I agree.
And that's about where I would put it. I mean,
yeah, I agree. I'm not going to disagree with anything you're saying. And yeah, you're right. Maybe it could have been a little more, well received if it was. I mean, I remember when the original trailer came out, and obviously everything was going to shit in the world with COVID. And I was just like, okay, well, it's a no-brainer. They just came out with Disney Plus, so this will be the first big thing for Marvel before WandaVision. Before just release it.
And if it would have happened like that, it'd have been.
That'd been great.
But this literally needed to happen before they literally expanded everything into the multiverse. And that's not because you can't have them small stories grounded into it, but it's just like, you just expanded everything, and you literally just made it so that pretty much anything can happen, and then you go back to well, she died in this movie, but you just told us that anything could happen because there's infinite timeline. So it's kind of like, so what now?
Right.
Like, if this movie came out before then, people are like, oh, so there's hope that she can come back. Now it came out afterwards, and they were like, well, so she can come back. Yeah, that's the difference. You went from giving hope to like it being like an obvious thing now. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a multiverse. There may be a universe where she's literally just not dead.
Yeah.
There are a timeline where she's not the one who jumped. Like so now there's just it made it like you know what I'm saying, like it made it from something like if we would have seen this a little while ago before the multiverse thing, you'd be like, cool. Like once we found out about this, they'd be like, we know that there's a chance that she can come back some way somehow. Like and it gives you hope that you can see one of your favorite characters again. Now it's just like we already know the multiverse, and then you decide to throw her movie in and be like, well, okay, well, we already know now that there's a chance for anybody to come back. So it's like her death right here has already lost its impact. We already know that everybody has a chance to come back. At this point, that low key just depends on people's contracts.
Yeah, really, it does.
Who comes back? Who gets that contract?
Yeah. Who signs again? Yeah, you're right. So it'll be definitely interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good place. But I don't really have too much more to say about Black Widow. I think the movie at its core is about family. And I think all the real key points in the movie that dealt with that I thought were really, really good. Story as a whole, I give it a C. It doesn't really connect to too much that went on. I mean, it was cool to see Ross in the movie and him talking about the Sokovia Accords and all that kind of stuff, and right after Civil War, but it just kind of fell flat, with regards to the overall story. Action was cool.
It really
but I
has some
think
cut-ins to when Captain America and her rolled up on Scarlet Witch and Vision when they were first fighting. I forgot his name. Proxima Midnight and like
Ebony Maw.
When they popped up there, like they showed like some build up to that, like in this that'd have been kind of cool when she was undercover, and there's some things that I feel like.
Yeah, cause you see her when she comes back with the blonde hair at the end, and she's, you see the vest, and all that kind of makes sense, but I just felt like it just, it was cool moments, but it just lost its luster real fast. But overall, man, it was good to get back to theaters. It's not one of those movies where I absolutely hate. It's probably not one of those movies where I want to watch again. But if it's on TV or something else, maybe I'll keep it on as background noise. For the most part.
Because there are some good parts of the movie. Like it's definitely not an all bad movie or anything by any means. It's just pretty average. It's just one of those average movies. Like I put it right there where I put like Captain Marvel and stuff like that, where they're not terrible movies. They're just average. Nothing super sticks out to where I would want to watch the movie a second time. But if it's on, I'm not gonna like just turn the movie off. That's about where I put it.
Yeah. So. All right, man. Go ahead and tie a bow on this thing. Let's get out of here.
I gotcha. Boss. So, hey, we appreciate anybody who stayed tuned and watched all through the about 40 minutes of video here. We appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the videos. We do appreciate it. I'm trying my best to try to get these videos out as fast as possible, as soon as possible. Once again, thank y'all, and y'all have a good night.